I think we're good. Okay, so mic check, mic check. Let's do it. It was set up right. Let's see before it makes it sound. Let's do window capture. Well, here in the stream now, you'll see me getting ready for this. Let's see you. So I guess we'll start with the wage gap. Everybody tries to do this clickbait kind of crap online, right? Everything's got to be has to be a final stance, right? Sorry about that if you're watching. Yeah. So let me say that again. So yeah, everything's kind of got to be clickbaity. It's weird. The guys that post this, where they get the Krasenstein brothers or whatever, they're kind of shady anyway. And there's a lot of weird. I don't know. There's background there, but they're basically like left leaning, and I guess I would sum them up as just very, I don't know, like liberal, I guess is what it's called nowadays. They they just like to poke at these things, right? So you see like I'm sorry, I'm looking up. I can see what you guys can see up here, but uh, Ziadi's playing this. It has nothing to do with systematic racism. So it's just poking at the right. And so a lot of people, they're not fooled by this stuff anymore, which is, I think, is why um, it's really good that like Elon Musk took over Twitter and everybody can just talk about, uh, you know, things openly and you can debate things openly. And so far, it seems like it works really well, and people don't seem to be getting booted off as much for things. Um, so one of the things I'm sorry, I lost my train. I'm just trying to do two things at once, but on here, what you can see, what I was gonna say is we can look through and you see people's comments, and they're not being fooled by this stuff. They're calling it out like, well, what do these figures mean, right? Because I mean, we're not so dumb that we're not going to ask questions, right? So part of this has to do with like the laws of logic and things that um really the reason like I like watching like the Crucible, Jay Dyer, um that whole like kind of group of guys that are going out there really showing uh the world about all these like laws of logic, and they're talking about and they're hosting debates where basically they have like their one stance. They're trying to explain it to these people, and I wholly agree with them. I don't agree with the other people, of course, because they have they're full of hedonism. They've got what is it, secular humanism? I think is the actual is the title of what they believe in. I don't, it's not a belief apparently, but they follow these doctrines, and uh, one of the things is the reason I brought all that up because here you have everything about this is questionable. Now, I'm a data guy at work. I do process improvement stuff. I do project stuff, which is kind of easy way to do. But a lot of data analysis goes into all of it, right? If somebody would show me these numbers, and just like anybody should say, when you look at it, you're like, all right, when was this data taken? And I don't think you can even see it on the right because it's a screenshot. So first off, everything I see online, it doesn't matter if you're right leaning or left leaning. These accounts, they make money off this stuff. And just like anybody, when this is their only income, they're going to shill for this stuff. So they'll never actually change. So even if you could convince this guy that he's wrong on every one of his points, he's going to keep on posting this crap because this is how he makes money, right? This is what he's known for. This is his brand that he puts out there. And it's the same when I see like Andrew Tate. Um, when I see, I don't know, John Peterson's a bad example of it, but basically when you see these people that double, triple down, just quadruple down on these really bad takes, and it's like, well, the people are like, oh, why don't they ever walk it back? Well, they can't walk it back because they'll lose their base, right? They can't take it away. Part of the reason we have such political problems is that people go down one path, call it right leaning, and then nobody on the left can go down that path, or else they're considered not left enough, right? Uh, yeah, and it's just a cluster. But I would look at this right away and say, first off, where's the link to this, right? And of course, it's a Fox News broadcast, so then you're like, okay, I can see it says Brookings on there, so it's like I will go to, I will type. I already did it at the top of my bar. You can't quite kind of see it says I typed in Brookings net worth of a black family, and there's all kinds of studies. I have known nothing about Brookings. Uh, I don't even know if it's um, really good data or whatever. But either way, you start asking questions. Okay, so now we kind of know where the data's at, right? We can kind of poke around and get it. They didn't really leave a link to it to prove that they've even done any research on it. They just said, "Ooh, that looks like I can get clicks off it," which they're right, right? They took a screenshot. Yeah, there's what you get. Uh, but I would say, what's a black family? Like, describe a black family and a white family. Um, what's the what's the date range here, right? Of the network. Um, Just any of the question you need to know, like what are they counting for it? So I will say, that being half black myself, I do know there's such a thing as like generational wealth. So I know friends who um, doing either exactly the same as me or maybe a little worse actually. I mean, like just in life as we were growing up, like, maybe they didn't go to school, but yet they still afford a house because they had this money in a pot that was given to them by their grandparents or their parents or somebody had put money away. And then I think the argument could be made there for some kind of um, racism based, if it's like generational wealth, if that's the focus of the conversation. Then you could say, yes, of course, people get put into better positions because they have better support groups surrounding them. Um, but then if you're going to go that way, I think you kind of have to put this, even if say these numbers are right, which I think they're crazy, but say these are right, and you say, you know, the family, this is okay. Well, what's the difference between a white family and a black family? And we know there's tons of differences. Okay, and this is one of those things where if you put this guy in a room and you made him say it on live TV, maybe say it on live TV, hey, what's the average black family to you? Because in my mind, it's a fatherless home. So immediately you lose the primary income you have. We all know that a single mom, she can't really work a full-time job without a babysitter or daycare, and the daycare costs a lot of money, so she has to get a job to get the money to pay for daycare. If she has a job, she'll lose the housing that she gets for free, and so there's this circle of death that kind of happens. Like there's a lot of single moms I knew when I was young, like when I was younger. I would view this in like the real world, not just online data, right? Points, right? But in the real world, you could see where once a kid was old enough to like watch themselves, right? So the mom would struggle, dating different guys, etc. So the mom was stuck, and the only way she can get out is to get a new boyfriend who makes good money, right? And he will help her lift her out of that poverty. Um, and then, um, or like I said, wait till the kid's old enough to watch themselves, and then the mom can go to a better job because the problem really is that she can't hold a great job because she has to call in so much for the kid, right? Kids get sick all the time, things like that. So, and then that happens to white families too. I'm just saying that they have better support structures. If you're going to go with the generational wealth discussion, I think you can make that claim. Uh, 'Cause, yeah, I know people that just have money for no reason. I mean, like, a lot of white people for sure that I know have money for no reason at all. Just that, like, and then they are super not motivated. They don't even have like real jobs and real careers because they're propped up. by this generational wealth. So eventually, I think it will all work itself out due to the kind of situations that are ongoing nowadays. But um, but that's really the only argument or the only real argument I could see happening because otherwise I would put this on black families and say, look, if you're talking about a single mom today, it's like why did she get with a guy that wasn't, gonna stay around, right? Oh, it was a one night stand or what? I mean, you could really dig into all the issues where the mom should have been more responsible. The dad should have been a dad, should have been a man. Hey, if he's gonna do the deed, do the crime, do the time kind of thing, right? At least be around, help support her, stuff like that. Uh, so anyway, it's a lot to get into, but I can see why these numbers, if you were going to accept them at all, um, I could see where it was, especially if these numbers are years ago. Let's say not 1990s, but they're probably from like 2008 or 9, I bet. They could have been really bad. Yeah. And then, what does net worth mean too? Like, anyway, being in business, there's so many definitions and different companies and people count different things, but like this would make more sense on the white side if we're talking generational wealth, because that's where you would count like the property they got loaned, the property that was grandfathered to them, or uh, some kind of farmland they all have access to. Because like there's tons of farmland out here, and it's worth tons of money, and it's all white people that own it, right? So if you were net worthing off of property, yeah, I mean, so anyway, like I said, it's generational wealth. Those guys didn't buy that property, right? Okay, handed down through generations. You can make the argument that the black people never had a chance to get that land, to be able to pass it down at the same rate, right, as equal rate or whatever, an equal quantity. Um, and that's what I'm saying. That's the only real, yeah, I don't know, real point I would allow or let speech to. But also, so one of the things. Let's segue this into my channel. If you're watching this, if you're still going, what I would like to do is kind of like help people look for a job. I think one of the problems we have is um, that people in the community that I know that are black versus white, like white people, they help each other out with jobs a lot, but so do black people as well. It's just that at the moment, um, I don't know that many black people that are trying to get jobs like the jobs I have. And I don't know if it's a lack of skill. I don't know if it's the way they're raised and everybody wants to play basketball all the time and football. Like we know these stereotypes, right? I'm not trying to get real deep into it. I know extremely smart, very, very successful black people, mixed people, Indian, of course, Asian people. I know. I mean, so I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's somewhat like I would like to do some kind of grand test to see if it's just the motivation or the helping hand, right? Like big brothers, big sisters. I did tutoring before, so don't say I didn't try anything at all. But yeah, do the like maybe they need tutoring or really just some kind of guidance to let them know, hey, you know, um, the world tells you all there is football and basketball to help you out, but you can just literally be smart. Don't do drugs to make don't do things that affect your brain, right? And really keep your eye on the prize, right? I mean, anyway, there's a lot to unpack, and I would like to like debate somebody on it or something. But let's see some of these responses, see if it kind of kicks me into the tizzy here. Let's do a little bit lower. Let's get down. Yeah, here's something about this family. About this guy. Yeah. Uh, the Krassensteins or DNC operatives and narrative spinners, why they're allowed it as Twitter speakers in spaces is beyond me. Yeah, that's true. They were speakers. I went into the channel with Elon Musk talking the other day, and it was like Elon Musk and wow, was it Vivek, the Swami guy? Was it the guy going for president? But there's a lot of people that I watch. I mean, I think Jay Dyer was in there. I think who else did I see in there? But they weren't speakers, right? This guy was actually a speaker. This Krassenstein dude. It's like, what? And then Andrew Tate was a speaker. What? Like I don't. So anyway, it's just I think the world's in a really weird place right now because you can never. And I would say this since the whole Palestine Israel thing kind of jumped off this year. after watching this 2023, when it jumped off, because everybody started choosing sides very sharply. But like, so they would draw a line this way, and then it would be like, whoops, that intersects the line you've drawn this way in the past. And so people are just getting like in a very weird spot where where it's like, hey, I'm on this side, but I'm voting for that side, and then somebody will say, well, that side's killing babies, and then you'll say, well, that side killed babies too, right? And you've got these people who are friends and other enemies, and everybody's crisscross. And this is what I'm saying here is like when I go to a chat and it's like, hey, I want to see what Elon Musk is saying because he's actually like producing goods for the world, right? So he's not just chilling, okay? And so he, and no matter where he gets the money from, I say it's weird. I know, I get all that. I'm just saying that like you would go listen to him because he actually provides a service. All right, he's not just a talking head for the DNC. He's not a talking head for whatever. Um, and anyways, so then it's like, why the hell would Andrew Tate be on there talking? I mean, what what experience does he have that is equivalent to Elon Musk? Um, to even be like I don't know. I just don't get why people like him so much. He's cool and all, I guess, but it's just like that's not what I would go for. Like I wouldn't go. This is equivalent, right? Like I'm in business. I wouldn't go to a meeting about doing like uh, about I don't know doing strategies to save money, and then it's like you know um, Andrew Tate's in there. I'd be like, well, what do you what? Why is he here? They'd be like, he's yeah, he's famous, whatever. Yeah, he's got a blue check mark that's been there for a while. It doesn't make any sense anyway. So, yeah, so I listened for a little bit, and then those guys start talking, and then the Protestant guy, and then some other dude in there that I think, who else was it? Anyway, another person that's just famous or whatever. I'm like, these guys don't deserve my time. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then it makes me question. Let me get back to my point. It makes me question Elon Musk then, right? Like, why would he make a space and then talk to those guys? Why are they allowed to talk? Uh, yeah. Anyway. Uh, mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So here this person says, according to census.gov data, it appears systemic racism is being college educated or one or more household members working full time. So again, um, the second part here, the one or more household members working full time, that really comes from the problem we see with the single mom at home, and she cannot work a full time job. Literally, she no place will let you. I mean, she because she's not gonna if she's in that position, it could be done. But if she's in that position, I'm assuming she's at the age where she hasn't built up the skill to have a job that's remote or something like that. Because usually in a remote job, they don't always have you have a degree, but like most of them, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot that do though, but then there's like slim chance you can find one that doesn't. But then if it doesn't have a degree on there, it probably doesn't pay that well. Um, and then for her to be able to just call in and not, or not either on a certain day, uh, I'm not really sure how well that could work out, right? I would love to. I mean, I've seen some remote jobs lately. The worst one I've seen had an infinite amount of flexibility, but the pay rate was only, and I say only, because where I'm at in life, it was only $15 an hour. Um, and I know people could benefit from that job, so I'd love to share it. I should link it. Maybe I'll put it in my Discord. So if you want to be a part, I think the Discord link is in the description. Um, if I did all that right this time. Yeah, go there. Maybe I'll post all the jobs there, and then. But the thing about it is like this makes sense to me. Um, if you've actually, left your computer desk and you went out to the real world and you met people and you talked to them and you meet a young single mother, which is going to be hard to do because guess what? She's at home with the kid. And she might be out on the weekends partying, but you wouldn't know she's a single mom then because she's not, you know, uh, single momming. Anyway, um, yeah, the being college educated part. Yeah, they say you make more money, and I do agree, but that's a whole system I'd be willing to fight to tear down in a way. Um, because I don't like things that are um, what do you call it? Something of entry. I say the word all the time, I can't remember it. Um, anyways, it's them putting a guard against certain jobs, right? Like I've seen jobs where the ones you have a master's degree but it only pays $20. I mean, we've all seen like I don't know if you scroll through like Twitter and stuff, and they'll see it and people laugh at it. But this is really how the world is getting right now. And I remember when I first started my career, a super young chap. Um, I didn't have a degree, and I'd get passed up for all these jobs by people that are just the dumbest mother. I mean, just I don't want to curse too much, but they're the worst like possible people to get these jobs. Um, and some of them are actually bad people. And that's just like they're dumb. But the thing was, they had degrees. So uh, then again, that's part of like the generational wealth thing that I was talking about, where like they would have a degree. Like even kids, like trust me, this is personal experience here, and I'm sure I could look it up anecdotally. I know it's anecdote, but um, I know people who are like, yeah, I went to school and I came out with zero debt. And they have a 4-year degree, right? And I'm like, what? How did you get out with zero debt? Oh, well, I worked while I did school. And then it's almost like they know that it's a pride thing. But because if you keep digging further, then they eventually say, oh, yeah, my dad paid for half of it or something like that, right? So then you're like, oh, right, right, a trust fund from my grandma. So going back to that generational wealth kind of argument you could probably make. I'm not really worried about it though. I mean, look, if someone comes and watches this video and says, "Oh, Greg thinks that the anything about systemic racism with wage, has to do with generational wealth," it's like I don't study that enough to fight. Yeah. But just logically, and by the way I've seen things, I think is kind of true. So I'd like to hear someone argue back with facts. But it's not even really that. I mean, I think the main issue is like feeding people knowledge and changing the culture around everything. Just the way we, um, like I said, every black kid I know they want to play basketball and football, right? So they think that's the way out, even though in reality you could just do a quick count, whatever, count how many football players there are, period, on each team. Multiply that by all the teams. Uh, Multiply that by go through like college level, say there's like two in college, so do times four. Uh, anyway, you'll have that number, and it's that number of people that carry forward professional NFL football. Um, and that's it, right? So you have millions of kids everywhere wanting to play football, and it's like, if you're white, you're a quarterback. If you're black, you're like, well, yeah, I have a better chance, but still, like, gonna be like one in something millions, right? Whatever. So it's not a very logical thing if you pour all your eggs and all your messaging into kids and all these black kids, and you tell them they can only do these certain sports or whatever really well. Um, because I can get real deep with it. I keep getting this thought in my head because I could get real deep with it because there are uh, thoughts I have about when when you allow a black person to be smart, like you like the people I know that are really smart, they're like very spiritually in tune, right? And they're very, which is weird because a lot of black people vote Democrat. I don't understand it at all. But they're very like, and I say spiritual like Christianity. Like they believe in God. They see things as miracles. Um, I think they'd be really good warriors for kind of like um, the way they know how the world works, right? They see the world, they can digest it, take people's empathy in, so they're not like they're not so far what I would call right that they're I don't know, just stone cold empathy and they don't care or whatever, but they're like, because way to the left is like all you do is empathy. That's how I visualize it basically. It's like they care about everything too much, all right, and things they can't control. And that's why they end up doing all these policies where like, we need to do this now, save these people. Um, but we back that up a little bit, right? So, but black people are they're that perfect. They're like this perfect mix. And the more educated you get them, I've seen that that's the outcome you get. Is uh, is a smart person that has a lot to give society. Okay, but they can't be real far left, like I said, because they'll get that uh, victimhood mindset. Um, oh, that guy got the job instead of me because I'm black. You have a thing to fall on, and if you have that crutch, you're going to use the crutch. Okay, that's I could go on about that little bad things, but anyway, that's my way to tie that into business. Oh gosh, that's what I was trying to do. Here a little bit. And there's people I know that anyway, I've got a lot of personal history with um trying to help people out when I was a supervisor. I pulled a lot of strings and did a lot of work just to keep people employed when they were dealing with this kind of shit. Um, so it's important to me that, you can't teach that to other people, though, is how to stand up for someone else the right amount, right? I mean, don't, like I said, you can't be too emotional. You can't be, within your means, but that's why you also have to be smart because you have to know all the rules, every rule, even ones you never thought you'd have to use. At least have an idea that they exist and where to find them. And then once you know where they're at, when something comes up, you say, hey, hold on, let's go take care of this. And you go get the rule, develop a plan, and then you end up saving people's jobs, which is great. And, it makes you feel good, right? Because, the world's tough. And I always have this potentia idea. So this is one of I wrapped this into my last video is about God's plan prep. I was kind of prepping to do some kind of speech about God's plan, but I wanted to do not a live, but like a real video. Um, and talk about God's plan because I see a lot of atheists that say, or well, what did I call that guy just now? Maybe there are people that just think that things are random and they want to argue whether something's a miracle or not. And, the biggest argument there is like uh, God's plan. If God has a plan and He's all knowing, then He knows what you're going to do, and you can't ever surprise Him. So if He knows what you're going to do, then everything's determined, right? So you have determinism people out there. And then if it's all determined, then what's the point of anything? And I'm like, wow, you went to a really dark place really quick um, with that kind of thinking. So, but anyway, what I'm saying with these people, do you have children, right? And that's usually what I try to protect the most. It's not even it's not. So like, if a guy's working for me, something's going on, he's about to get fired. I did as much as I could to pull as many strings to get him to stay at work. And the whole entire idea of that really is because I believe in the potential that children have, right? So, um, you know, not really getting to abortion right now, but when I think about that topic, I think about the potential that each one of those children could have had, right? So, I heard a long time ago there was somebody famous, some scientist, philosopher. I don't know if it wasn't Jordan Peterson's before that time, but I know I was younger, so I probably didn't care that much at the time. I do remember hearing it though. Somebody said that, hey, how come we haven't had another Albert Einstein? Or, hey, how come we haven't had another Nikola Tesla? And they just name all these smart people, right? Like, why is the gene pool of like these geniuses so small? And then I was like, well, if we weren't aborting them all, like there's a really high chance that they were born, and they were either born in a place like uh, deep African jungle where they didn't get a chance to get like a really good education, or maybe they just died of malaria or something. And then maybe they were about to be born. Be a worst case scenario is they were about to be born in America and got canceled, and then that's a shame for our future. Um, we kind of put this blockade on it. So I wish all the systems were set up to think in that way, right? Like if it is all about the children moving forward, protect the children. Um, so that's a really side little baby piece of my kind of my worldview, God's plan talk kind of thing. But anyway, that's the idea. So protect the kids anyway. So that's why you help people like this, right? So these moms can't work full time because of the kids. So the government, we help. right? This is where people were like, "Oh, we're capitalism, but we have a ton of socialism stuff." No, we're not a socialist, but you're right, we do help these people. There, she's going to get free money. You know, if we're talking about a mom here who's not educated, raising a kid by herself. You know, I'm using stereotypes. There could be a million other things. It could be a dad out there raising three kids because the mom passed away from something weird. He got crippled. I mean, we can go crazy. I'm just sticking with the base one, right? And but yeah, dad. If that's happening, um, we do subsidize those people, right? Of course, give them the free housing, basically live for free. I mean, and I don't know. There's not really like. Uh, I'm not sure as like a caseworker for those people. It'd be nice to ask somebody if they actively try to help them out of poverty. Right? They say, hey, you got this stuff going on. We'd really like to help you out, um, etc. Right? Let's see what's good. A lot of ads on this one. And then you have stuff like this, right? uh, they like GDPs and IQ levels. But you know, obviously, don't trust everybody on Twitter, of course. But like, if you were looking at something like this, uh, it may seem harsh, and of course, this person is trying to. Okay, this goes with the thing that says it could be correlation without causation, right? Because even the first thing I think of is like we know that Africa is like a third world country. Okay. So if you have an IQ test um, that's based off of the Western world with cars and trains and boats, high speed internet, uh, I'm just trying to name off things I think are like advanced that they wouldn't even know about, maybe. Um, and if you went over there and you gave them the test and said, uh, you know, figure out these machine gears, and they've never even seen a machine or gears or anything like that, right? Because they're still like hand cranking water out of a pond or whatever, getting in buckets. They're going to fail that IQ test, like absolutely, right? So how do you gauge really the IQ? Because you're not, you know, what did you create a story problem? Get them in a room, do one of those escape room things, maybe see which group gets out of the escape rooms quicker. Um, have a translator there to help them out. I mean, there's a lot of questions about this, just as bad as the main post, right, from that one dude. Um, but you know, I'll tell you something I found out. Is that everybody I follow on Twitter, right? All these people where I'd go, you know what? This person seems like they've got a great thing, right? I would click on, sorry about that. I would click on their name, then follow them, and then you know every single one of them, without a doubt, maybe except for a few here and there, but like 90% of them eventually post things that are incorrect. And they have, if they have massive audiences, those massive audiences see what they post and they comment on it. And then, you know, maybe a couple months later it gets taken down. But the problem is that this propaganda or uh, um, bad information, false information, it spreads. And it spreads like wildfire. And then you have to take everything with a grain of salt or you got to outthink it. And that's what sucks because you could scroll. I mean, think of all the people scrolling through this, reading every couple posts. They see this and are like, huh, yeah, that's because they're really effing stupid. Yeah. And they're just just going through, right? Um, and that's the problem is that the deep thinking part has to happen. Okay. Because I have no doubt that, yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I have my doubts about why Africa isn't more advanced. I think that's where the future's going because every other place in the world that's becoming more westernized, we're taking all the land, we're doing all the parts sales, we're doing the everything's being taken up. The oil, the land for farming, etc. The only thing left untouched is over there in the east. So so things are going to be expanding there quite a bit because they have all that land, basically, quote, uh, uncivilized, I suppose. Yeah, greatest white baiter. Yep. Uh-huh. Mm, I am. Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's say median household income by ethnic group. Ooh, can you give me a year? Yep, 2013 to 15. Okay. Huh. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, that's old data, but I wonder what it'd be now. Um, yeah. Man, I see that though, and I mean, I'm not gonna say I get like sad or whatever, but 35,000, pretty low for in household income. But then again, what's your household definition? Single mom at minimum wage, 35,000. Yeah, that's it. Um, Weird here it says the average American. Yeah. How does that mean? Is that like a mixed dude? I mean, I don't know. Average American. Hmm. Yet it's not black guy, and it's not a white guy. This is the average guy. You're not quite dark enough. Hmm. Yeah, see, this is the problem. I would say I like this meme here, right? Is Africa is after the world donates a bunch of money, this is still Africa. Right? You probably saw, I mean, I don't know, yeah, I'm sure some of you might have seen the Mr. Beast thing where he was um, putting wells up in Africa. They said they got, and then it was a rumor that the government got mad at him or whatever. But yeah, of course. I mean, come on. You got these people living in squalor, not even being able to get some fresh water, so they're like full of diseases and stuff. So this is where I am a fan of what Mr. Beast did. I don't like the fact that his name is Mr. Beast and he's doing all these miracles for people and stuff. But you know, this is one of those things. Like any of these kids in Africa could be something great, uh, but not when their bellies are blowing up with you know, symbiotic creatures, etc. So at least now they're given a chance with fresh water to prosper. So I'm happy about that. Hmm. And hopefully he'd be able to do that everywhere. And I'm really sorry I'm not paying 100% attention. I wanted to have a notification go off. I just want to make sure nobody's trying to talk in this chat. It's really hard to uh, to see who's in the chat. Um, from this app I'm using, I might have to get a different app. So if you are in the chat, please even just let me know you're there. Just click, I don't know, type F in chat for something. Anyway, I could try to see if I get anybody here. Let me do a little. Let's see how far. Oh, okay, we got one good. I like it. Okay. All right, so it does work. Okay. Anyway, a little pause there to see, make sure nobody say anything. Because again, if you see my other channel, my other stuff on the channel, I know I touch on weird stuff, and my audio is so bad on my first couple resume videos. I got to redo those. But basically, I would like to help people try to do the job hunt. Right. I mean, what I was saying here is, yeah, I don't know what they're doing with the money. You can help anybody. Uh, let's see. Mhm. Yeah, this person seems like they got lots to say. Why do some people confuse race with culture? The white race didn't transform the world with technology because of their whiteness. They did it because they were given direction from the true God and His Word, and they followed it. Blessings and cursings. What? Everyone can accomplish more if they apply the right laws, the right actions in their lives, rape is a cop out. Yeah, yeah, there's some things about it that absolutely true. Absolutely true. What else did I say I was going to cover on this video? Because maybe I could do. That's true in business too. Let's see if I can find this article in business about business here. Um, well, yeah, it's the booking thing. Yeah, my jump starter wasn't working. I have to make sure I didn't just show some weird stuff there. What am I gonna do? It was what is it called? Affirmative action. Action count women. Yeah. 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 So you see already right away. Like here's some time. Affirmative action has helped white women more than anyone. This is what I want to talk about with work culture. Because they did have a lot of they did have a lot of people talking about like that. I don't want to get any stupid copyright or anything, but I don't even need to read the article. I'll tell you my story. Okay. Uh, the somebody in HR I was talking to at one of the various companies I've been working for. They're a friend of mine, and we were having a discussion about uh, his yearly review stuff, right? So what do you rate it on? He said something about having the right mix of people or whatever and all this stuff or something, and I said, "Oh, do you get rated on affirmative action? Like, have you been following that?" He said yes. And he said, but he goes, what's really messed up is he said when we talk about affirmative action, he found out that women count, like white women count. And he said, and that's a humongous loophole that people have been using in hiring. And then I guess he deep dove into it and found out that yeah, it's this huge trend. Um, and I said, you know what's weird is that um, I noticed a big push to hire females. And there was one time at work, I said, when he brought that up, I was like, yeah, I stood up from my desk and I looked around me and I saw like 90% women and a lot of new hires, and all of them, it's all women and all white women. And in fact, there's only like two black girls at all and two white women at all. I say girls are kind of young. Is two white women at all in the entire area. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, what about all this affirmative action stuff? And how are you ever meeting your quota? And he's like, well, that's how we're doing it. Is it's all white women. So he wasn't like saying that it was some kind of secret thing he was doing, right? He wasn't doing that. Um, he was just saying that they were. It's just something that companies get away with. Is you hire a white woman instead of anybody else. Um, and I think sometimes this is where um, we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot as like a country, right? Because I think we could all agree, if you were like, there's got to be some level where you're like, hey, like, because basically what it is, they have two candidates. The idea of it, you have two candidates, they're equal. We've got one guy, you know, um, yeah, you got one guy, a master's degree, blah blah, whatever. The other person, master's degree, blah blah. But then they're like, oh, one's black, one's Mexican, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, take the black guy. We don't have enough black guys. Take the black guy. And then that's how they're supposed to do it, is when it comes down to that finite level. But instead, what it seems like people are doing is instead, um, they were just saying, hey, we got three candidates. One's a white female. They take the white female. And that's their inclusion, and it kind of makes you, if I could get enough data to see if this really was happening, um, like like on a grander scale, like one big enough to like bust open and be like an expose or something. That might be worthwhile to fact check, like um, whether it's still happening today, because there's employment records, right? I mean, there's got to be a way to find out who's getting employed and what for what. Um, but yeah, I think it is a trend, and it's interesting. But most people would probably, I don't know, where do you fall on that level? Whether you're left leaning or right leaning or whatever. Um, I mean, I've heard parts of this stuff in arguments, but I've never heard anybody bring to the table, hey, they're loopholing it by hiring white women, because they count as a minority, right? And so I don't like I'm not a fan of affirmative action, uh, as far as I know. And that's the problem, because it's one of those things where, like, I don't know if I've benefited from it before, and if I have, I kind of want to know when it was used, and I want to understand um, if my skills are up to par for what I'm there for at the job, or if it's not, right? So if they're like, oh, I want it to be that clear, okay? And I know that might sound harsh if they hire some lady and they're like, hey, we hired you, welcome aboard, Donna, but we only did it because you're a woman. And then at least though, she would have that knowledge, right? And she would say, oh, well, and then maybe say like, okay, well, I appreciate that, but what does that mean? And then you say, okay, well, we're going to start you right off the bat on like kind of this development plan. And we're going to help you out. Because otherwise you don't know, and you don't ever know. I think that's what people really don't like about it, especially when you're smart and you think you can do things on your own, and you have like willpower, and you're saying, hey, I want to apply for this job because I'm really good at it, and I don't want to get a call back just because I'm black, right? Like, it's this doesn't make you feel very good. It shouldn't, you know. But in the end, you have family to take care of. Maybe you're okay with the leg up, right? Um, and Anyway, those are things I would argue against individual people if they would want to at some time, right? But I've never heard anybody bring up the uh, white women affirmative action. So I wonder if you can do something like this. Affirmative action hiring rate by, I guess, gender. Well, okay. There's got to be some information. Ooh, 2018. Gee, oh, I saw 2030. Mhm. Huh. Wait, I have to go back to this other Pew thing. Oh, I have to read some of this and try to get you some information. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Here's the thing about it. It says, alternatively, uh, okay, I'll start at the top. Let's read through this. I don't know. I might end the chat. We're not doing this, but attitudes towards affirmative action following a more consistent trend. Outcomes of gender affirmative action and management are approached by scholars in a balanced and relatively aligned way. As expected, attitudes towards gender affirmative action. Why did they not do AA on the? Yeah, as a combination of prejudice, discrimination, tokenism, and stigmatization are the top topics presented. Scholars argue that divergent attitudes arise among individuals when they are the target or excluded party. Oh. Further argue that stigmatization is not only recurring in the gender affirmative action, but it can also ruin any efforts towards diversity management. Additionally, affirmative action targets can be negatively affected by such initiatives, even when they are not chronically stereotyped. Height indicates that while affirmative action targets Black respondents tend to perceive discrimination or racism in their workplace and are consequently supportive of affirmative action, and non-targeted individuals, like some white participants, tend to have an illusion of equity, not perceiving racism in the workplace and failing to see the need for affirmative action. So I think that's the space I'm talking about, right? Is where um, my friends who are white at work, many places I've worked at, they've said openly, they're like, yeah, we're not racist. This looks fine and everything's equal, everything looks okay. Where I might be, because I know that protection exists, and I look around and the only Black or mixed guy in the entire work group area, I have to question what I'm there for. Was it actually my skills or was it affirmative action? And it likely could be both. And then I look around and I find out that women are counted as well. Then I look around and I'm like, oh my God, it's all me. It's me and then a bunch of women and then a few dudes. So I'm like, what is this going on here? But I don't let it, it doesn't get to be that much. But if you try to wrap your head around it, um, it's Schrodinger's box, right? It's the cat alive or dead inside. Um, Alternatively, the person proposed that not only do those employees affected by affirmative action, but not targeted by it, perceive such initiatives as reverse racism. So that's how a lot of people do see that, and I could agree. Uh, but particularly when the gender affirmative action takes place, both black and white men or males, sorry, employees report feeling discriminated against by female competitors. Indeed, the perception of being stereotyped due to affirmative action has been reported by several employees across race and gender groups. Additionally, scholars have reached some agreement that while employees understand the purpose of affirmative action, men and women present negative attitudes when believing that practices discriminate against their own gender. Right. So we all agree that affirmative action, we all, make a broad statement, right? But I think this is true that most people probably believe that affirmative action is good and that it would work or could work for people. But the bad side of that is that once you see it put into action, you start to have a lot of questions about it. You start to wonder, you know, is it against me? Did I not get that raise because I wasn't the right gender, or wasn't the right color, or wasn't, you know, all sorts of things. I always tell my white friends, and jokingly, that I feel bad for them because of the world we live in right now with this stuff, right? Because that reverse racism quote comes in. Because if you're not giving them a bunch of these free rides, if they're trying to balance everything out, if they're not getting A, they have to be getting B. So if they're not getting the free ride, they're getting nothing, and they're just left behind. And you'll see that too, and you'll see a super mad, super jaded white dude, and he'll see a black guy that couldn't even tie his shoes straight, get a job over him, and he'll go frickin' nuts. And then that's when that's one of those things I would like to avoid is a situation because somebody feels these things uh, interrupted their career path. Uh, let's see, it just keeps going on about it. I'm like, oh, it's about my time. I'm drinking coffee, but I'm getting tired. What's the stream called? Yeah, yeah, wage gaps. Well, so besides racial wage gaps, I already touched on them. I got the female and male one. I don't think it's really not true because it doesn't dig into the data. It's just a broad stroke brush saying we counted all people with all jobs, and these are all the women and how many hours they worked. And then it's like when you look at the details, you're like, yeah, but the men work like triple time and double time and all that. And um, we don't take off work, have babies, of course. We don't take off work. Take care of the sick kid. Usually the mom does. Uh, Men tend to do more dangerous jobs, at least as of today they do, so they get paid more, right? You know, um, there's a lot of reasons men and women don't make the same amount of money, but it's all temporary. I mean, it could change. I mean, I, most of my bosses in my whole work career were women, and they're really good leaders and everything, and it was all okay and fine. But in every one of those scenarios, they all had kids that were old enough to not need them to come home when they're sick and things like that. I always thought to myself, like, that's got to be the key, right? Like, if they don't have a support system, um, and they have to leave for work all the time, they're not going to get that raise over the guy because the guy's there, the guy's making money for the company every day, etc. Um, there's just a lot to, against a good woman. And I don't think it means women should not have the kids and do the womanly things that we're used to and help raise the kids when they're sick. I mean, if this is the way, you know, uh, kind of is, I mean, I'd go home, but the problem is that, if I do make more, that's how we reason it out, right? You call each other up, hey, one of us has to go home, and the dad's like, well, if I stay here, I can work for 8 hours over, do a double shift, and the mom's like, yeah, then I'll go home because I make less anyway. Then it's just like the math works out. Where why would you do it the other way around? Um, so anyway, it's just hypothetical uh, discussion there. Yeah. But anyway, if you didn't know that, that might be something that surprised you there. But yeah, here I am on the Brookings website, looking at data. And there's a lot you can really do with it. I mean, but I don't know. I always question graphs. I can make graphs say whatever I want. Um, and so can these people if they're good enough. I like that picture they got of the dude just looking back all smug. Okay. Anyway, I guess that pretty much does it for the day. Cause that the night I just haven't done an episode forever, and my thoughts in my head. I got to get a few things out, um, out to the world. Uh, but anyway, yeah, I'm still working on my God's plan thing, and also a segment I'm going to call Words as Weapons. And I'm doing a lot of research for that, so that might be my next stream of lives, just going over the kind of like you watch along with me as I do my research on how words are used in the English language and how they're used against us in this day and age. So I'd say. So, with that being said, appreciate you coming along for the ride. And hey, if you liked what you saw here, please, please, please like and subscribe, and DM me, message me on Twitter. Uh, put a comment here, and I'll get notified. I'll come back and we can set up some discussions or some time to help you with look for jobs, whatever floats your boat. Just get our ideas out into the ether. So okay, have a good one.